You see, besides books or hooks, we just got books and books and books. Because readers are leaders, right? That's what they say. So I'm not going to be one of those people that dog the internet or YouTube researchers or internet researchers in general, because there's great information everywhere. But there is value to be said about those who put a lot of emphasis on reading the great literatures of the past, the studies of the past. And so I'm of that school of thought where I believe even just to know those that came before you, it's important to get your mind in some books and do a lot of reading. It's good for the mind. Just even, I don't do a lot of fictional reading, but even fictional reading, the type of pictures and imaginary inspiration that books do that you don't get from tuning into the idiot box and, turning your brain waves down to that frequency where it's more susceptible just to programming. But books give you that freedom to create that visualization by yourself from your own inspiration, your own heart. So can't say enough about books and the positive aspects of getting your head in some books. So we're just going to cover one small area of research material that we typically fall back to. Me personally, and my endeavors and challenges in the family court system, as well as just being a seeker of truth in general. And so, whether it's the sovereignty movement, all the First Nations struggles here in Americo, so-called America, the so-called United States, corporate or organic country that we got here, nation state, if you will. But the First Nations attempt to have the recognition as a sovereign nation, sovereign nations, the First Nations that the treaties were written with. And so the struggle with them to now the big new word is sovereign, and it's on the terrorist threat list, for the U.S. government on something that they are real mindful of, those troublemakers, the sovereign movement, those sovereign citizens, right? The so-called oxymoron of a word, a sovereign and a citizen. But we only going to cover a certain amount because we can go deep, as we know, into the rabbit hole. So whether it's First Nations, the Moorish nations, the Free Nations, Free Nationals, the Freeman movement, the Patriots, the white European nationals, to the corporate nationals, if that's your thing and you want to be a robot for Babylon, that's the beauty of Contracts Unlimited, is we can contract with whoever we want. So you want to be part of that system, all power to you. But personally, I do believe in the right of self-determination, sovereign nations, free nationals, and I think it's protected not just by divine right, the right of yourself or your creator, however you view your sovereign soul coming into this world, or the actual written manifested laws of the United States government or the United Nations or the UN and, the world courts for the Declaration of Human Rights and all that. So moving into the navigation that we have to do, for me personally, whether it's through family courts, these road pirates that you want to make revenue off us for traveling, while we're not even engaged in commerce, but just exercising our free right to movement on this earth, to criminal law, common law, all those good topics that we can get into that are good for us to know as we're trying to navigate as free, self-determinating beings on this planet. So my go-tos, when we're just looking at language in general, we got to give it up to those that started breaking down the etymology of all the words and bringing those studies back, because it's really important to understand connotative versus denotative linguistics and the basic difference in how we got to the language that we're using today, predominantly English being, the forced language of the world at this point, for the common thread. But the etymology of all our words, so we know what it is we're saying, especially when you get into law, the courts, all that, because people are corporations, corpse are people, right? All these funny linguistic, semantic trickeries that they're doing with the wordplay, so that what you say in one venue is not what it might mean in another venue. What you word on the street might not be how you use the words in a court of law, or a common law court, or a commercial court, or a maritime court, or I know we're getting into a lot of court stuff, but we're ruled under contracts in this world, and in a society where we're indebted to usury and private currency and bills and landlords and landowners. It's good to understand the chain of command, and so that's why we put time into the studies and communicating it to our community, first with self, knowledge of self, and then trying to get on the same page with our people. Ain't no Willie Lynching going on here, right? We trying to bridge the gaps and build with our community and those that are ready to uplift themselves and others. So my go-tos when we're just starting with words, etymology. Peace to Taj Tariq Bey, and that was the first one that turned me on really to putting deep study into etymology. So this is my go-to etymological dictionary. It's pretty small, it doesn't have all the words, but it's got enough of the main ones. You can reference basic stuff and see where the history of your words come from. Nice, look up the word nice and find the history of that and how it's changed from the original intention to what we use now. It's interesting, and it's good to be educated. But if you really aren't playing and you got to go much deeper than what a book like this, which surely doesn't hold all the words that are used in the English vocab, then you got to get a little more serious. So my personal books I got here are the Oxford Compact Edition of the Oxford English Dictionary. You hear me? So this is a 2-edition series that I have, and it took, I think there's like 12 in this Oxford series, and they condensed it down to these 4 pages per page. So let's check it out. If you go in, you can see it's almost micro print. So 4 pages per page. You need a magnifying glass, to read it. And this will go deep, deep, deep into, the European studies of the etymology of the English language. So I highly recommend digging, learning words in general, right? As they're dumbing down the public education system and our vocabularies are going down, our understanding of applied sciences are just out the door, our understanding of civics. There's no more civics in school, so all that's gone, but it's not on them to educate us, right? We understand, those in the conscious community understand it's on family, it's on self-driven determination to educate yourself, educate your seeds and your children. You're responsible for your crops. You're responsible for your seed and your family. So it's on us to get back out of the hamster wheel, the 9-to-5 and the corporate lifestyles, the careers and all of that, and start investing back in family, teaching our own children and ourselves about the history of this country, the history of self, finding out who we are as energetic, biological, spiritual beings, and discussing that with the people we love. They say it's just such a shame, right? They say politics, religion, all, these core things that need to be at the dinner table. That's what they say. You never discuss at the dinner table. It's just a shame. We got to transform our families, ourselves, this whole America for sure, and the world, if we on that global tip. But right now we got to deal with self, our own backyard. So, to take responsibility for self starts in the household with the family. And, all week, that's the love revolution. That is the freedom movement. So that's why we're trying to raise our vibrations with the music, with the social gatherings. We are Change Colorado. The meetings, the parties, the potlucks, all that to bring our people and our community together, get on the same page. So moving forward, now we got the breakdown of words. Etymology, we're going to take the time. If we don't know a word when somebody uses it, we're going to go look it up, find the definition, expand our horizon. And so once we start to understand the depth of words and the power of words, the alchemy of words, right? The spelling and the casting and all that once we get into the esoteric side of things that the average common person, the neophyte, knows nothing about. But as we start to develop and raise our consciousness, we understand why there's been so much attention paid to the construct of everything, from wordplay to the law, society, all the constructs that we see now. So after just the base etymology of words, we're going to go into the legal words. So you can't talk about the legality of how we even got here to this so-called free society, right? Based on genocide and slave labor, domination and trickery, slickery, right? But the supposed free capitalist nation. So you can't talk about that in America without going back to, this is my travel constitution, right? This is the condensed etymology book. This is the small constitution, but it's got everything you need. It's got all the amendments, the Bill of Rights. So how many people have even read this? It's so few, in America, especially you get to the youth, but even the adults, it's just, people don't care anymore. They've put all the trust and responsibility in their caretakers, in the landlord, in the boss, in the CEO, in the state, in the government, in the police, in the president, trying to get everybody else to solve their problems. And they don't even know the foundation of how they got where they at. So the Constitution, we all got to read it. You got to do it. You got to know the foundation of this country. We're here now. We're dealing with some real sugar honey iced tea, as my man Issa L says, and we gotta educate ourselves. We gotta know where we've been, how we got to where we at, so we know where we're going. So, Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. We used to hand these out at our shows free to the people, just to try to get people starting to read again, right? At the shows, the Freedom Movement, my hip-hop, soul, reggae, conscious group, that's what we do. We go out to the people, and we just try to raise the vibration. We try to entertain, get our people together, have fun, and then talk about life, love, liberty, freedom, all the good stuff. So get yourself a little Constitution, so when you stop by the Road Pirates, you even know what a right is. It doesn't come from, this is a piece of paper. You think your rights come from here? You think this is going to protect you? It's just a piece of paper. But the concepts in here, the concepts in all these books are what educate ourselves and empower ourselves. Knowledge isn't power, right? I'll give it to my man Tony Robbins. Knowledge is potential power. So we got to get knowledge first, and then we got to exercise it to empower ourselves and the people and our communities and our loved ones. So this is a tiny constitution. Get it, read it, Bill of Rights. You got to know it, right? These were slave owners that wrote a hypocritical book that's beautiful in its concept if you didn't know that they weren't liars and wicked and slave owners, right? And so we got to understand the depth and the complexity to healing and growing and empowering ourselves. So this is a tiny constitution. Get it, read it. But we got to get deeper than this, right? So outside of that, we're going to go to this. This is the Constitution of the United States of America, Analysis and Interpretation. Now, this is going to go a little bit deeper, right? This is moving up toward the Oxford dictionaries, where everything's going to be a little more in depth. You're going to get the interpretations from Congress and people that are so-called, masters in their field, scholars and all that. So this is going to go through the whole Constitution with much more depth, right? But when you get deep into it, even this isn't enough. So for the people that are going to take it past being a neophyte or just a little bit of interest, this is where you want to see my constitutional analysis. We got these two binders right here. Alright, this is the exact same thing, only deep. Alright, so let me show you. We're gonna break into one of them so you can just see we on the reel over here at the Freedom Movement. When we get into it, we've been doing this. This is our 15-year anniversary for the hip hop group, but we've been doing self-determination and self-empowerment and communal empowerment and love revolution and all that for 25 years. So peace to the movement, peace to those that been down with it and those that support it and those that are doing it on their own. So see if you can see it. Constitution of the United States of America, analysis and interpretation, right? This is deep. Look at this. There's no joke. This is the same thing. So, when they treat you all like fools and like sheep, like animals, like peasants, it's because they know you've never spent any time looking at the development and the history of this country. And so they think you can't rule anything. Your family, yourself, your loved ones, they believe you couldn't even get by in this world because of all these texts that they feel so educated in that you got no clue about. And so that's why this system that was so-called created by the people, the government, right? We're not going to get into the organic government versus the corporation, all right? It is a corporation. It's not conspiracy theory. You know what I'm saying? You can look this up. It's basic. So all this fine print is how they keep us lost in the commerce, right? And if we're getting back to contract, there's a little side tangent, but it's the same thing. And I just got to disagree with some people that, are like, well, they're really not breaking the law because the fine print and they've, if you read the contracts, it's the same as the lawyers do. These scumbag lawyers that have every little written clause and everything that's going to cover their ass because they need the most ass covering that there is because they're doing shady stuff. And so they've mastered the art of wordplay to cover themselves and take away liability so they can't be sued or held responsible for things that in normal world you should be held responsible for. And that's not to support a system of court and government and all that. It's to say in any free society you're still going to have deviance, you're still going to have violence, you're still going to have injury that we got to deal with, and we got to have a system to deal with that. And I think the common law system of harm no others, if you cause injury you're entitled to a hearing of your peers that gives a good perspective on what fair justice should be. And so that's why I'm a proponent of the ideals of common law, free society, and sovereign nations, free nationals, and just sovereign people. I ain't even that worried about sovereign nations personally and all the commerce. I get that we're there in this time and space and we got to deal with it, navigate through it, but in the world I live in, where I just want to be happy with my family and my friends and my community and prosper and invent things and create things, I'm not worried about all that commercial commerce and that type of prosperity. That's one thing I do believe about the zeitgeist movement, and the whole resource-based economy versus scarcity, and how we have I just don't think we're in a true capitalism right now, personally. So I'm ready to reset the whole thing. For those that know me, that's what I preach. Reset. Let's hit the Jubilee button and reset this whole game. So I digress. Let's get back to the books. So now we got the Constitution. We got etymology to help us look up the words just in the Constitution, which, it's trust law, it's contract law, because it's really a trust and a contract, not for the people, but for the government to regulate the government and limit the government, not limit the people. The people are supposed to be free. In a republic, we're supposed to be free. So the Constitution was written for them. So all that thick analysis and wordplay is to help the people understand how to regulate the government, right? It goes creator, man, woman, their creations, which is government, fake corpse, fictional entities. And then down here you got citizens, right? The lowest form of divine lineage that you can be. A citizen, a 14th Amendment citizen of the United States Corporation of America. Come on, people. Let's get it together. So, all right, then we got the Constitution, and that's backed up by the legislation and the laws, and that's how they regulate and rule all the savages and all the people so that we don't all crumble and everything goes to chaos and anarchy, right? So then you get into the laws, all right? So me personally, this is my personal library on law books. We're going to start with 4th edition, Black's Law. You got to have a Black's Law. Period. If you want to navigate in this commercial realm, in this law and contract realm, you got to know some basic stuff. You got to know what a person is, right? An individual, all these ens legis. You got to know what a fictional entity is. You got to know why they're saying corporations are people and why they're saying people ain't shit. Because that's what they're saying is you're a citizen. So what's a citizen, right? You got to look it up. We got to know what sovereignty means. You got to know what they say it means in the 4th edition, 5th, 6th, 7th. They've been keeping editions updating with the times. And so now if we're on 10th, I don't know what we're on now, but you got to see how their own words progressed in law and transformed how they look at you when they pull you over and ask if you're a driver. Right? A driver is someone engaged in commerce. So then they get you in this wordplay, which it's just dishonorable, if you ask me. So that's what I was even saying with the Constitution. Like, there's dishonor with the whole thing because they're doing wordplay. And so all the little fine print in a true contract, you can't have the tiny micro print and stuff that's hustling people. That's not honor. So when you're hustling all these people with your wordplay and, oh, are you an individual? Are you a citizen? All this stuff that they don't even know what you're talking about, right? Because they haven't read a Black's Law or the Constitution or an etymology dictionary or much of anything. Now they're lost and you believe they're contracting with the government in real time out with these road pirates and all that. It's crazy. It's nonsense. So we got to educate ourselves. Black's Law 4th, that's what they say is judge law, is judge-made law, common law. A lot of the court case-backed words are in here. There's a lot of references to the actual cases in the 4th edition Black's Law. So, well, first of all, let me show you just quick. Here's my 3 physical Black's Laws. I got everything on PDF, but physically, I got the 4th, the 6th, and the 7th. So, Black's Laws are my go-to. You can see it's tabbed up, okay? Because I just had no idea when I got into it, the importance of words. It's not that I know a lot of people in the conscious community, the people that have been studying law and doing the work. It's not that they want to spend their time looking up these words. It's that once you realize what's been done and the type of wordplay to contract you and take away your God-given divine right to thrive and prosper and life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, right? The things they said this country, America, so-called America, was founded on. So for most of us, when we got in, it was a deep rabbit hole that we just couldn't believe. It was shocking to the mind, to the heart, the system, the soul. And once you go in, you just know there's so much more to life than this silly hamster wheel that we're on, the matrix that they got us living in while Hollywood puts it all in our face. And so we kept digging and then learned that knowledge is potential power and that we could free ourselves and elevate ourselves and transcend Babylon and thousands of years goofiness and people trying to get it together. And that's the love revolution. At the end of the day, we just want to get it together as people, as humans. Not just humans, but life, because we respect all life. The wigglers, right? The winged ones, the four-leggeds, the furries, everything. We all connected. So peace to the ancestors and to the connection of life and the Most High for this beautiful plane that we're in. Let's keep it building. So I'm going to just recommend one other type of, you got to get your street law too. Because the average person isn't going to read all of this, right? We know that this isn't for those people. Or maybe it is as we plant seeds and try to get the sprouts to grow. But so maybe this is more your style. This got some street knowledge for, the people that aren't even at that level of reading yet. There's different levels of books for different levels of consciousness. So something like this, Raw Law. I got this specific book from Black and Nobel out of Philly. Peace to them brothers and that shop and everything they've done for the conscious community. But I grew up with street knowledge first and foremost. I'm a college graduate, but I started on the street. I grew up on the street. So a book like this is crucial for those that didn't come up, left brain education style. They came up learning from action and real life, street knowledge. So a book like this is good for those people because we understand the lower economic you are, the more interactions you're going to have with the po-po, the police, all those things that are going to get you caught up in the system and steal your potential to thrive in this world, period. So, those of us that understand the dynamics of how the money and everything, the development of this country specifically, got many people into a predicament of what would be a caste society, basically, and just running on a hamster wheel while they play with the interest rates of fake paper money. Those are the people that are caught up in the law. They don't even have time to go get a fourth edition Black's Law dictionary, right? They just trying to make it day to day and week to week, as are once you get to the middle class and some of these people that just work in blue collar. So there's lots of levels that we can educate ourselves. The point is on law, on how to navigate with the road pirates out there, especially from my melanated community, that we know they don't care about us, right? I mean, we're not trying to have that conversation with those people that don't believe on the day-to-day, when we're just trying to navigate and survive and feel safe and feel proud to be beautiful people. So in our struggles to do that, we got to use all our tools and all our resources to help us get to the next level, de-escalate a situation, or navigate through intelligent, articulate dialogue with whoever we're interacting with in this world. We got to work on communication, period, with our loved ones, with our partners, with our friends, with our co-workers, the whole world. So the last thing I'm going to stop on is this section of books, which is, the religious doctrines. I don't got my Quran in here, but, I go to the Holy Bible. Why? so many reasons. This country was founded by Puritans. This law and all that, and the Roman law and all, the history of where to England and landowners and kings and divine sovereign rights, right? That's where so much of this came from. And so to not, regardless of what you believe, I don't consider myself a Christian, right? There was the Christianity when Christ, Jesus with no J's in Hebrew and all that was here, Yahshua, right? It's not about religion and dogma. It's about seeking truth and understanding the people that we live with, that we have to bridge the gaps with and find peace with and build and try to elevate. So, period, you got to know. I mean, how many Christians are there? How many Muslims are there, right? It's not going away, even for you atheists out there with your own little funny religion. Like, we still got to navigate with each other. So I'll read the atheist books. I'll read the Charles Darwin's and the Silly Evolution, and even the Dawkins, Richard Dawkins, and the so-called Time of Science, and the Neil deGrasse Tyson's, right? And my man Aaron is talking about Bill Nye the Science Guy. Come on, man. But we gotta know. You gotta know what everybody's putting out there. You gotta know the full spectrum, 360 degrees, right? We gotta know everything that's out there. So let's just look in the Bible real quick, since we're talking about law, where their laws came from, all that, and then I'm gonna reference Acts, I think. I'm going to tell you what, I got into the Bible by real Christians. Okay? Like, that's what kills me about that conversation out there. Like, those that are just banging on the Christians. Like, most of the times they're just picking the most goofiest Christians out there, right? I mean, or the Westboro, these crazy, just like in the Muslims, they're going to go pick out these are like extremist jihadists, and Muslims hate it's so, come on, y'all. Some of this is crazy. Y'all just gotta calm down. Educate ourselves. So we're gonna go right here to their Bible, right? That they founded this country on. And so what we got here. I'm sorry, this is Romans 13:8. Owe no man anything but to love one another. For he that loveth one another hath fulfilled the law. You see how simple that is? That's common sense. And that's common law. So my point is there's gems in all these books. Okay, you can bang on the Bible as much as you want, but the amount of math code and Bible code and come on, y'all. Like, you have to understand how much went into this. Okay, I'm not saying there's a white European anthropomorphized man god in the sky. You're not even in the conversation if you're still like running on some of the silliest arguments. Like, I'm telling you, check out some of the core Christians that deal with physics and math and science and Darwinism, like, is just as dogmatic as most of these religions. You believe you came from a bang that came from nothing, that was magical, and then from that everything blew to infinity and slowly got more and more organized. Like, it went against every other natural law we know, and it just kept getting more organized until bam, out of nowhere, like the first cell developed, like this thing Darwin will never address. Of course, like the beginning of the tree, who knows, but yeah, then there was slime, and then you came from a lizard and sheep, and then a monkey, and then you, and it was like, come on, y'all, we gotta have these conversations, right? The Moorish community and the black conscious community and the Muslims and the white Europeans, we gotta start bridging these gaps. That's what I feel I am. I'm a gap bridger, from my genetic makeup to how I've been raised in this personal manifestation. And so it's just interesting being in Colorado where it's mostly white and not identifying with, white Europeans, and then being bridged with the Native community and the Black community and the Moors and the Muslims and the Pan-Africans and, the First Nation philosophies that are, I don't even want to say resurgent, but they're resurgent with the European integration back into having these conversations with Standing Rock and just the progress that the times have, YouTube and the interconnectivity we all have. And so we just got to be having these conversations, y'all. My white community, they just have no idea what's even been discussed in the Native community, in the Moorish community, in the Black conscious community. Like, as a society, as a culture, as an experimental nation built on mystery and violence and beauty and all this stuff, like, now is a beautiful time to start addressing it with each other. So if I'm going to talk about the Bible, I'm going to keep building onto the Strong's exhaustive concordance, right? And this is the same thing. It just goes into depth on the Bible, on the King James, right? I mean, we're not going to get into all the variations, but this is a good reference book to have, So Strong's concordance, you got the Quran, Circle 7. We just got to know what other people think. It's easier to put yourself in their shoes if you have some understanding of who they are, their culture, their beliefs, and all that. And that includes the so-called opposition. You're never going to get rid of the opposition. It's all polarity. It's all the spectrum, the Hermetic principles. There's going to be gender. There's going to be plus and negative. There's going to be vibration, right? Like, let's understand the natural principles so that we can navigate with them. That's what permaculture is, right? Understanding the natural principles that we see in life, doing such a beautiful job that then we can incorporate into our human existence, into especially technology, so that we're doing right by ourselves and doing right by the planet. So that's my preaching for today. But I'm going to show one other book just because of my passion and where my personal life is right now, which is back in the family courts. And trust me, you want to talk about being free, being treated just respectfully, much less equally, power, equality under the law, right? Welcome to United States of America as a brown man in family court where you got no rights. My experience into this is I grew up knowing I wasn't the same, knowing I wasn't going to be treated equal in America as a melanated man, as a brown-skinned man, as a Native and Afro-American man, as a so-called black man, right? And then all the color of law that they put on us. But when I got into family court, and my passion now to bring awareness around the atrocity that is happening to families, to men, and to women. This ain't a man, this is not a gender thing. It is because it's gender specific and that men have no rights in most of these courts. But that's not to say that the women aren't being hurt too. We're all being hurt. Where there's injustice anywhere, there's injustice everywhere, right? And so what's happening to us as men in these family court systems is the motivation behind a lot of what I'm putting my energy into moving forward. So with that, I got to give a shout out to this couple from Texas, not in the best interest of the child. What they're doing in these family courts is straight devilish. What these lawyers are doing, and I'm going to be straight up, what some of these mothers are doing is wicked. We got to heal ourselves. We got to heal our families. Starts with self. And then our families, we got to take responsibility for ourselves. Stop being hypocrites. Loving ourselves for our fallibility. that we're going to stumble, we're going to make mistakes, we're going to say the wrong thing, we're going to act the wrong way, and we're going to ask for support and forgiveness and grace from our community and our loved ones and our family. And we're going to give that in return, right? So that we're not hypocrites. So that those that we see out there, we're not trying to war with. It's okay to protect yourself. But we're not warring with each other, we're building. That's the freedom movement, that's the love revolution. And it starts with self. Be good to yourself and be good to the world. That's not just something we say. That's something we try to do. And I'm going to try to do it every day for me and for you and for my seeds and for your seeds. Peace to the ancestors. Peace for giving me your time. We're going to keep doing these videos. If you got something else you want me to cover, email at info@rhymes4thetimes.com. info@rhymes4thetimes.com. And we'll keep connecting. We'll keep building. We'll keep getting these videos out and trying to make life beautiful. So, rhymes4thetimes.com. It's the soundtrack for the love revolution. My name is McAD, and I love all of y'all. Peace and love.
It's all coming together right here now. It's all coming together right here now. It's all coming together right here. Who's that? It's love, can you feel it coming through that? Conscious revolutionary music. Yeah, you can